You are smart, you have ideas. You have plans, yet your work is still delayed. And the truth is, this has nothing to do with laziness. Psychology shows that smart people procrastinate because they overthink, chase perfect timing, perfect plans, and perfect moods. And while they are waiting for everything to align, action quietly dies. Procrastination is not a lack of motivation. It is fear. Fear not of failing, but of damaging the image of being smart. The moment you understand that progress does not require perfection, only a small start, everything changes. If you don't want to keep delaying your future and want psychology that turns thinking into action, subscribe now to MentalForward. If you want psychology that actually works in real life, subscribe to MentalForward and start moving forward, mentally and practically. Procrastination is not a sign of laziness, and psychology proves that some of the smartest people struggle with it the most. Intelligent minds tend to overthink, analyze, and imagine every possible outcome before taking action. This mental ability, while powerful, becomes a trap when thinking replaces doing. Smart people often wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, or the perfect mood, not realizing that perfection is the brain's favorite excuse to delay discomfort. The mind is designed to protect itself from pain, uncertainty, and failure. For intelligent individuals, that protection comes in the form of rationalization. They don't say, "I'm scared." They say, "I'll do it when I'm ready," or "I need more information." Psychology calls this avoidance disguised as logic. The smarter the brain, the better it becomes at justifying delay. Fear of failure, fear of not meeting one's own high standards, and fear of wasted potential quietly fuel procrastination. This is why intelligent people often feel frustrated with themselves. They know what to do. They understand the consequences, yet they remain stuck. The mind keeps postponing action to avoid emotional discomfort. Not because the task is hard, but because the identity is at stake. Procrastination becomes a coping mechanism, not a flaw. Until this is understood, intelligence will continue to work against progress instead of for it. For smart people, procrastination often hides behind perfectionism. Psychology explains that intelligent minds set extremely high internal standards, not because they want excellence, but because they fear imperfection. The brain links self-worth with performance, so starting a task feels risky. What if it's not good enough? What if it exposes limits? To avoid this threat, the mind delays action under the illusion of preparation. Smart people convince themselves they are refining, planning, or waiting for clarity, when in reality, they are avoiding emotional exposure. Perfectionism feels productive, but it produces nothing. It gives the brain a sense of control while quietly stealing time. This is why intelligent people can spend hours optimizing systems, watching tutorials, or rewriting plans without ever starting. Psychology calls this analysis paralysis, when thinking becomes a shield against vulnerability. The task itself is not the problem. The emotional risk attached to starting is. Beginning means accepting that the first version will be imperfect. For a smart identity, imperfection feels like failure. So the brain protects the ego by delaying action. Over time, this creates a painful loop. High standards lead to delay. Delay leads to guilt, and guilt further reduces motivation. The smarter the mind, the more convincing the excuse. Until perfectionism is recognized as fear in disguise, intelligence will continue to block progress instead of enabling it. For intelligent people, procrastination is rarely about the task. It is about identity. Psychology shows that smart individuals often build their self-worth around being capable, talented, or full of potential starting. A task threatens that identity because once you begin, results become real, and reality can challenge self-image. As long as a task is unfinished, potential remains untouched. The mind finds comfort in this illusion. Procrastination allows smart people to believe they could succeed if they tried, without risking proof otherwise. This is why delay feels safer than action. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates judgment. The intelligent brain fears losing its special identity more than it fears wasted time. Psychology calls this ego protection through avoidance. Instead of risking failure, the mind postpones commitment. This is also why smart people are often hardest on themselves, internally but appear calm externally. The pressure is not from the task. It is from the fear of discovering limits. Every delay preserves the fantasy of unlimited ability. But that fantasy slowly turns into frustration, shame, and self-doubt. Over time, procrastination damages confidence more than failure ever could. The mind becomes tired of carrying unrealized potential. Progress begins only when identity shifts from being smart to taking action. Until then, intelligence remains trapped inside fear. The human brain is not designed for growth. It is designed for survival. Psychology shows that the brain constantly scans for threats and discomfort, and then pushes you towards safety. For smart people, comfort doesn't look like laziness. It looks like thinking, planning, researching, and waiting. The brain rewards familiar behavior with dopamine, even if that behavior leads nowhere. Starting something new creates uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers fear. That fear activates the brain's resistance system. Smart minds feel this resistance more clearly because they can imagine every possible failure in advance. So the brain whispers, not now, later, or after one more. Plan. This is not logic. It is fear disguised as intelligence. Over time, the comfort zone becomes a prison. The mind confuses being busy with being productive. Hours are spent preparing for a life that never begins. Psychology calls this the comfort trap, where avoiding discomfort feels safe but slowly kills momentum. The brain learns that delay brings relief, so procrastination becomes a habit. Every time action is postponed, the fear grows stronger. Progress requires tolerating discomfort, but the brain resists it at every step. Smart people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because their brain protects comfort more than future success. Until discomfort is redefined as growth, procrastination will continue to feel reasonable. The breakthrough for smart people does not come from more motivation or better planning. It comes from changing how the brain defines starting. Psychology reveals that action becomes possible when the mind feels safe enough to begin imperfectly. Smart people don't need lower standards. They need lower entry points. The mistake is believing that starting must match the final vision. In reality, progress begins when identity shifts from "I must do this" perfectly to "I am someone who starts." When the brain sees action as small, reversible, and low-risk, resistance drops. This is why micro-actions work. Opening the document, writing one sentence, starting for 5 minutes. These actions bypass fear because they don't threaten identity. The brain stops protecting ego and starts building momentum. Psychology calls this behavioral activation. Action first, motivation later. Once movement begins, clarity follows. Confidence grows from evidence, not intention. Smart people regain power when they stop waiting to feel ready and start acting. While feeling uncertain, procrastination loses control the moment action becomes smaller than fear. The smartest move is not thinking more, it is starting sooner. Intelligence becomes an asset only when it is paired with motion. Action turns potential into proof, and proof silences fear.